If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women of Wayland podcast. This is your host, Yamini, and I'm so excited and happy about getting back to you after such a long break. Trust me, I missed you all, as you must have missed our episodes. You know how there are stories we share freely, and then there are the ones we keep buried, hidden between moments of silence in the spaces where words feel too heavy to speak. But every story has a moment it can no longer stay hidden. This is Anonymous Story, a place where voices find their way through the dark, where memories unfold one whisper at a time. Some stories begin in darkness, but they don't end there. This is a story of resilience, of finding light after years of searching in the shadows. It's a story of survival, of breaking free from the past, and of choosing to heal. And today, something special is happening. This is the first time we are recording Anonymous Story inside the studio, giving a voice, a presence to the one who has carried her truth in silence for too long. Though this guest remains anonymous, their story is anything but distant. If you feel moved to send a message, a hug, or even meet this guest in person, you can reach out through me. Because sometimes healing begins with knowing that someone else understands. This is Anonymous Story, and this is a story of hope. Hi.
Hi,
Thank you for coming to our show.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
Before we begin, I want to ask you, are you all comfortable? Do you feel good?
I'm all set. Thank you for having this nice chair for me.
Yeah, this is a new edition, and I wanted my guests to feel like, for them to feel at home and at ease in talking about their journey. My first question would be, why do you want to say this story? Why do you want to tell this story?
The reason I want to tell this story is that a lot of us go through a lot of personal challenges. Like a lot of us have a lot of fears and insecurities about ourselves, about the people around us. But we are so scared to admit it to ourselves, forget about anybody else. And I feel the first step in actually getting better or coming out of it is to accept it. Acknowledgement is the hardest part. And for me, the reason to share this story is not that I want to talk about, my parents or my family in general, but the reason I am going to tell this is so that people can actually relate to where I was, how big of fear and insecurities I have given from where I'm coming from. And if I can overcome them, everybody has a hope in this world to, fight or face those fears and then overcome that.
How beautifully said. Yes. Yes, this is why we listen to story, to inspire, to educate. I want to take you to a point where it all began.
I would love to share that part of my story because I feel that is something that shaped my entire life, even though I didn't realize it till 2024 when I started my therapy. And I felt like I am an exception in this world, or maybe in a layman terms, I'm like a crazy person out there, not knowing where it all began and why I am the way I am. And to anyone listening out there, I have a request. Please don't focus on me as a victim or my family who did something wrong to me. Everybody has their own best intentions in this story. Just focus on my reality, which is how I felt in that moment, not about what happened. Because That's their journey. That's their story. I'm here to talk about my journey. So, therapy actually helped me realize that it didn't start in a day or in a year or in 10 years. When I look back, I feel it all started when I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, my parents and I used to live in Thailand. My brother was born there. And I was very attached to him because I remember going back to a temple and praying that I want a brother, I want a sibling. And he was there. And when he was, I think, 3 months or 4 months, my parents thought, because their eventual goal was to move to India, so they thought the best thing for me is to start the education in India, which I agree, right? Long-term plans, it aligned with their goals. So they decided for me to relocate me to India, in Delhi, in a boarding school. And they were continuing to stay in Thailand. So I went to the boarding school just 4 months after my brother was born.
And you went to boarding school at 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
In India, in Delhi. So how the drop-offs were basically they used to come to me. They used to come with me to the boarding school, and they used to be like, can you go inside the room and fetch something? And by the time I used to come out after getting whatever they asked me to, they used to be gone. Imagine a 5-year-old standing there in the middle of people they don't know, they don't know the place, they don't know anything, and not seeing their parents. Not knowing if they're going to come back like in a minute, in an hour, 10 days, a month, nothing.
Wow, that must be so scary.
I remember the feeling. It was scary. It was this fear. I don't know how to put it in words then because I was just 5-year-old and I just remembered the feeling, right? In between people that you don't know.
Right.
Now I have a daughter of similar age. I can see, like, I can feel the emotions that she can feel at that point if she was in that state. But yeah, I feel that's the beginning of it all, right? At 5 years, when I see my daughter playing happily and doing all these silly things and me putting socks on her and then feeding her and doing everything, I was in a place where I had nobody to take care of me. I was responsible for myself, for getting myself ready, for doing everything by myself, not knowing when the parents would come back. And yeah, so that happened. Then eventually my parents realized that, this is not working out because I'm getting smart enough to ask. I started asking them to hand me the keys and so that they don't disappear. They realized it's not going to work out like this. So they started sending me through an air hostess. From Thailand. They used to hand me over to an air hostess who used to drop me to the Delhi airport, and my grandparents used to take me to the boarding school.
Like at that young age?
But yeah, that happened. And I think at that time it was allowed to, hand over to the air hostess and everything. When parents were asked to come and visit their kids, because my parents were in Thailand, they couldn't come. I remember everybody's parents coming and going, and I was just sitting right there waiting for them to come. But nobody came.
Right.
Yeah. So I want you to understand it's not about what my parents did. It's about a child standing there in the middle of nowhere and what fear that person would have felt of people leaving them.
Yeah.
That shaped my personality, right? Like, you forget the incidents that happened when you are that young. But what you don't forget is the feeling. That feeling becomes a part of your personality. All those fears, all those insecurities is what shapes you into who you are right now. And I was doing some research and reading about all of this, and a child, this is also something very important for all the parents out there, that a 5-year-old does not know how to process big emotions. So what they do is, if they are left with big emotions by themselves, they suppress it because they don't have the bandwidth to process it.
Right.
So they grow up knowing the coping mechanism of suppressing. Not that they intentionally want to do it, but they don't know what else to do. So if you see your child going through any big emotions, sit with them, help them process it, help them feel it. Because the more you run from it, it always stays in there. It's like a beach ball, right? The more you press it inside the water, it'll bounce back even harder. So the more you suppress your emotions, it'll come back even stronger.
Did therapy help you forgive your parents?
So before therapy began, I was never in very, emotionally invested with my parents. I didn't know why. Because I had forgotten all that happened. And to my parents' point of view, they thought that she's a 5-year-old. She won't remember any of it. It was easy for them to not see me cry because they thought it'll be easier on me to not seeing them leave. Right? They thought they are trying to help me.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
But now in our generation, knowing all the emotions and everything, that's not how it works. Forgetting is easy because, at 5 years old, people don't really remember that much. But what? They don't realize it actually changes their personality. When a 5-year-old is left out there nowhere, scared, they will grow up to be that same person who is scared, right? Who has this fear that people can leave at any point. The people who love you the most, they will actually start fearing them the most, that what will happen and when will they leave. So they start pushing away people from the beginning. As soon as somebody starts getting closer to them,
They have this boundary, that wall.
they have this boundary, this wall that they push them away because they are so scared of being in that pain that no matter what, they want to just avoid that pain. And if somebody was there with that 5-year-old to help them process that pain, they will not be scared of this pain.
True.
In reality, we are not scared of abandonment. We are scared of the feeling, the pain that will come from that abandonment because we don't know how to process it. So for kids, don't try to distract them. If they are feeling sad or they are feeling angry or they're feeling disappointed, don't distract them from that. Don't punish them from that because as humans, all of us have that feelings and feelings are not wrong. Feelings are valid. So help them process these big feelings. Help them build up healthy coping mechanisms.
Did you feel anger and resentment towards your parents when you grew up? And did you recall all of this while in therapy, or?
I remembered these incidences. So when I was growing up, I kept hearing that, they had good intentions. So why are you feeling bad about it? But what we don't realize is intentions are different than reality. You can always admit that your parents have good intentions, but at the same time, you have to accept the reality that even though they have good intentions, you can feel hurt. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel disappointed. Validate yourself. And most of the times, we try to look for that validation outside.
Yeah.
But validation,
from the world.
Yes, validation, you can, and that's the problem. We are giving our power to the world to help us feel safe, help us feel validated. But the only person you need validation from is yourself. Yeah. And so for the parents here, I want to request you to never invalidate your kids' feelings. We are humans. We are meant to feel.
But in our culture, in South Asian culture, it's the awareness level of the parents too.
Yeah.
They don't come from a place where feelings are processed.
Yeah.
It's mostly ignored, mostly avoided.
Yeah.
And a lot of important topics are they're not discussed
Yes, I agree to that.
because of that.
And that's why I want to be here to bring that awareness. Our parents could not, but we can. We have that bandwidth to make that change now,
Yeah.
right? Like, I understand our parents were at a stage where they were struggling with just settling themselves, forget about the emotional bandwidth. Like, they had to provide, they were trying to financially settle themselves. So, everything that they did was valid. But we have the power to take it one step ahead.
That is true. But at the same time, do you not think that this is more like giving them a justification that, because you had to provide for us, because you had to go out and deal with the worldly affairs, you're given a leeway with how you behave and do things with your own family member?
I understand what you're saying, and I have done that for quite some time in my therapy process, that they could have done this or done that. But what I have realized that what it does is it keeps you stuck in the cycle. Why didn't they do it? Why it could have been different, right? And that cycle keeps you in the loop of resentment, right? Like it could have been different. But what is done is done.
Yeah.
You can't change that.
Can you describe me that scene where you were handed over to a hostess and you're boarding the plane? How was it like? What were you thinking? I mean, do you remember thinking anything?
No. I cried
You
all the
cried?
time. Yeah. More so because I was very attached to my brother and I felt he got chosen over me. From a 5 years old point of view, your parents are not relocating to India. My mom wasn't working at that point, and the reason she gave me that she can't move to India is because my brother was very small and he needed both parents. I was small too. Like, I was 5. I wasn't like a big grown up girl. So that led to the other fear, or, the subconsciousness that I am not good enough. And I can bet you 90% of the people out there feel the same. For one reason or the other, they feel we are not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. It's not, I didn't actively think at that point, oh, I am not good enough. I was 5 years old to actually think of those in words. But I remember that feeling, right? Not being chosen. Everybody wants to be chosen.
How was school for you?
It was scary. We used to share, bunk beds, 15 kids staying in the same room. And I remember I was very afraid of the dark because when light used to go, in India, electricity going is a very common thing. And when we used to lose electricity, it was like really dark. And that's how I grew up. Every time I sleep at night, I have my lights open. I don't sleep with lights closed. And I didn't know why. Until recently, I realized, okay, that's the reason where it all started. So every fear or insecurity that you have has a reason behind it. We keep blaming ourselves for being the way we are because we don't know where it originated. So anyone who's dealing with these things out there, take a step to look back. I know it's going to be very hard, very painful, and very scary. But take a moment to look back where it all began. Because once you know the source, right, then you can accept to yourself, okay, it's not me, it's the environment, it's the circumstance that shaped me into this. Nobody wants to grow up feeling, feeling the fear of being abandoned, or, growing up with the listening to people, okay, they are an attention seeker. And for all the people who gives labels as attention seeker, okay, this person is insecure, he has a lot of insecurities, I want you to take a moment and take a step back to feel that if you are feeling uncomfortable with somebody being insecure, put your shoes in that person's feet once. How would that person be feeling, being insecure? It's not easy to live with the feeling of being insecure. It's not easy to live with fear. Every time I want attention, I question myself. Why do I want this attention?
Yeah, that's not the normal state of mind.
Nobody
Definitely.
wants that,
No,
right?
no.
Everybody wants to be a secure person who doesn't need anything from the world. They are complete in themselves. So just don't judge those people. We are very quick at, labeling them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Today, in the world where we don't get seats together as a family in a plane, that itself gives anxiety. And I always pre-book the seats. Like, I'm visualizing everything that you went through as a 5-year-old, sitting in that plane next to the stranger.
Honestly, I don't remember the exact details. I remember how I felt, because you forget the details, you remember the feeling. Because the big part was I was handed over by my parents to somebody else rather than, who soothed me down or who didn't. That doesn't matter. And yeah, and for most of us there, I think eventually we grow apart from, what happened, but we always remember how we feel. And I feel to this point, I am much more comfortable talking to strangers than I am talking to my close ones or my family.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I always question myself, why? Like, I should always be comfortable or to talk or cry in front of the people that are mine, like, right? My family. But when I am in trouble, those are the people I run away from. I always seek that solace in a stranger rather than my own family. Being a parent, right? I want you to have build that safe space for your kids to come back to. No matter what, I know my parents have my back.
And you didn't have that.
I maybe I had it, maybe I didn't. I just didn't trust myself to go back to them,
Right.
right? So I didn't know because I never bet on that. And I remember when they came back, they relocated to India. They came to pick me up, and I saw them in the waiting room. And when they were trying to take me away, they were like, "We are taking you out from the boarding school on the condition that you behave good. Otherwise, we'll send you back to the boarding school."
Oh my God.
So that I feel now how a 5-year-old processed was I have to behave a certain way to be accepted. Otherwise, I won't be accepted. And how do you translate it to an adult? I have to behave how people want me to be, people pleasing, rather than who I am authentically. Right? I didn't even know who I was. I was basically this Play Doh who used to mold into anyone's life that how they wanted me to be. If somebody asked me, "What do you like?" Who I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know who I was. And yeah, so
That's heartbreaking.
it is. It
is.
was.
It for them to come to you after so long. How many years were you in the boarding school?
I think a year and a half or maybe 2 years.
I'm just feeling you so
Yeah.
much that somehow I have this feeling of helplessness inside me. Like,
That's what it was, right? Like being a 5-year-old, all I knew was I had to behave a certain way to be accepted. And I did that. The problem is I did it so much that it followed me throughout my life.
yeah.
And then when we moved back, and I remember my dad losing his job when I was, I think, 10 years old or something. And unfortunately, he tried a lot, but he couldn't get his job back. And my mom, being a doctor, she was the sole breadwinner in the house. And that led to a lot of resentment from my dad because mainly
It's a patriarchal society.
Exactly,
The
right.
man
He
is
was
not working.
he was completely dependent on my mom, and there was resentment from my mom that she's the one earning and not like my dad is not doing anything. It was like how I can describe is a completely fractured home where the only thing was anger. They used to scream at each other, they used to insult each other, even to this date. There was no happy moments in the house.
No respect.
No respect for each other. And I grew up seeing that. So my language of communication became anger, right? And when I started getting angry, I got labeled as the angry child. And that's the second problem out there. Do not label your kid. They feel angry. They are not an angry person. There is a difference. Because when you separate it out, you say you feel angry, it's just an emotion that comes and goes. But when you label them, you are an angry person, that becomes them, their personality. So every time I reacted out of anger, I'm like, okay, I'm an angry person. They expect this from me. So
Was there any kind of domestic violence involved?
yes, a lot of it.
Okay.
I remember standing outside the door and trying to protect my mom and listening to the, yelling and all, and not being able to do anything.
And despite her leading the finances and everything, she was still not given this respect. And
Not at all.
And they were physically.
Yes. And I remember begging my mom to leave my dad, that let's go somewhere else. Because
how old were you?
10, 11,
Wow.
something like that. And I really wish that is one thing I feel resent her. I shouldn't. I will get over it at some point. That she should have taken that chance and step to move away. Because for a child, it's much better to see two happy parents rather than one couple who is just messed up and not happy at all. So again, anyone out there who is struggling, think about this, how it will affect your child and what's the right step, right? Just staying together doesn't mean you're going to give your child a happy childhood.
Yeah.
They need to understand that you should step up for her happiness. That's what I want my daughter to grow up like. If you are not happy, have that courage to step out of that situation rather than being stuck in that situation because of kids or society or any other thing. You get one life.
In all of this, your brother was also growing up.
He was shielded because I was there. And
Okay.
and he didn't have to go through all the boarding school experience and all, right? So his childhood,
But his childhood was also in the same house
it was in the same house. But when all of this yelling and the hitting was going on, I was there with him, right? Like they didn't hit in, they did hit in front of me, but not my brother. And most of the time, he used to stay with the grandparents or go out somewhere. And again, everybody is different, right? Like you are wired genetically differently. Maybe I was more emotional, and the boarding school incident added on to it. That fear and that insecurity.
Or maybe you don't know, he hasn't looked into his past
Maybe
yet.
he hasn't, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm so glad you were there to shield him from, to whatever extent you could.
Yeah. And that's when it started. Everybody started saying, I am like a mom to my brother. Yeah, I wanted to be an elder sister having fun with her brother, not like a mother.
I want you to tell me about your schooling after you were taken away from the boarding school in this
Yeah.
day school. How was it?
So it was hard in the beginning to get settled back into the home and then started schooling. And, because everything came up with expectations that I have to perform a certain way. And if I didn't, then I always had that fear of being sent back, right? So I remember once that I didn't get good grades in my exam. And I was very scared to go back and show my parents the mark sheet. And what I did was I kept it in my bag for a week, 10 days. Time kept going on and on and on. And I was so scared of just bringing it up to my parents. And then one day my mom shows up in the school. And then she was like, she didn't get her grades back yet. And the teacher was like, no, I gave her the grades a month back. And then when they called me and I showed them the grades, I remember being so scared. And then I went home, and then I was, of course, like punished for two reasons. One for not getting good grades, and the second for hiding it from them.
Was there a physical punishment
Oh,
involved?
there was a lot of, in India.
I think, yeah, we've normalized it.
Yeah, it's
It
pretty
should not be
normal.
normalized,
Yeah,
but it's a normal thing for
it was
parents.
pretty normal for parents to hit their kids. So yeah, there was a lot of punishments like that. But again, if you have to take a lesson from there, is not that I didn't get good grades, that you should force your kids to perform good. But the lesson to take from there is that the child was so scared of the
That
parents
she did not.
that she thought of lying instead of, just being open about it, that I didn't get good grades. Right? Nobody wants to lie. It
No.
starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And more often than not, that lie is to protect yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I understand the pressure on your mom because she was taking care of the finances and
Family.
and family, and in our in not in our society, but I think in general, most of it falls on a woman.
Yeah.
But as a doctor, was she aware of the emotional blank that was being created, or emotional sink that was being created in you? Was she aware any time in the past?
So we didn't talk about it. And I remember bringing it up like a few years back. And then she had that defense in her that, okay, we were bad parents. We were really bad parents and this and that. Like how, like she felt attacked, which I understand. I mean,
That's what happens when you are
not accepting or,
yeah, and when you feel when you're subjected to reality and you're being asked.
yeah. I mean,
you're-
no
as-
offense. I have been defensive a lot of my life because I didn't even know why I'm that
Yeah.
way. So it was my way of either running from myself or protecting myself, right? That's the only reason you have that defense mechanism. Either you are trying to run away or you're trying to protect.
Right.
But from her point of view, I feel she was in a point like financially providing, and then education, and then family, taking care of the family, with a husband who is not very supportive. I don't think emotional stability was even on her radar anywhere with all of these things that were involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at all that she had to manage along with being a domestic violence victim,
Yeah.
expecting her to even understand other people's, I'm sure she's scarred.
Yeah.
And in India, it's very, very difficult to seek help mentally.
Yeah.
So it must be really,
Yeah,
really
it's still a stigma
still
to
a
seek.
stigma. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even now, when I tell my mom that I go for therapy, and then she's like, why do you need therapy? You're all fine.
Their instant reaction is, no, you're fine. You just take a walk.
Yeah.
They want to fix it
Yeah.
somehow.
So the
Yeah.
thing is that therapy is equal to mentally unstable person in
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people's mind,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But therapy is not mentally unstable person. It's you finding who yourself are.
Yes. Yes.
And we have thousands of thoughts going in our head and we don't know what to make out of it. Because
Right.
when you are in that zone, it's almost impossible to look out, that, okay, there can be a different perspective or different way to see things.
This all was happening, and you were in school, and you navigated through it all. Were you bullied in all of this?
In school?
Yeah.
Or school,
Were
I
you
don't think I was bullied. But I was definitely running behind people, trying to please everybody to be my friend or to stay with me, doing anything in my power, going above and beyond for them to just not leave me. I always had that mask on me that everything is perfect with me and I am always there, rather than, being myself. Right. And that's the reason I had a lot of friends growing up. So you can say I was extrovert, but I didn't connect to anybody out there.
Right.
I just had so many friends because I was scared. What if one person leaves me? So it was like a shield. Okay, even if this person leaves me, I had so many other people to rely on. Because I was so scared of being alone that I had a protective mechanism for me that I don't care if I can be vulnerable. I don't care if I can be open to you. All I want is for you to be there. That was the level of fear in me.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you graduated from high school and then went on to college. Did you do it in the locally, or did
I
you?
read locally. My college was 10 minutes from my house.
Oh my
But
God.
I took admission in that college on one condition, that my parents will never come and visit me. And I wanted to stay in the hostel by my choice then, because I wanted to move out.
Yeah.
Which led to a series of like really bad decisions when I was in college, because I had so low self-worth and people pleasing tendencies. I entered into a completely unhealthy relationship that I dated a guy who was supposedly my best friend at that point. And he somehow, I think people pick up on the energies, and I had a vibe or the energy that I'll do whatever you want me to be as long as you stay in my life. And he dated me on on a condition that I'm not going to tell anybody that we are in a relationship. I'm like, perfect. If that's the only thing you want me to be and you're willing to stay with me, I'm going to do that. But no healthy person would want to be, why would anybody want to be somebody's secret?
Right.
I want to be flaunted like anybody else in the open. I am with her. It should be a moment of proudness rather than, a shame.
Right.
But I was like, okay,
That's a red flag, of course.
that's a red flag. But for me, boundaries, red flags meant nothing if you are there, right? And I felt like I am a person who can relate to anybody's miseries, and I'm always there for people, and people still keep leaving me. So the thing was, they didn't come to me to be with me. They needed something because nobody knew who I am,
Right.
right? Things I'm telling you right now about my family. Till 99% of my life, not even one person knew what happened. Even like my husband, he just got to know recently about what actually happened, like what kind of a family I grew up in. Because
You were always guarded, and you didn't.
I felt that if I open that up, first of all, I didn't want them to judge my family, because no matter what, it's family.
Yes.
Like how people pick up on the energies, they just felt that I'm a very empathetic person and I will understand them. And everybody wants one person to listen to them,
Absolutely.
right? And I was that person who heard them, who felt their pain, who felt what they're going through. And when they left, I was very disappointed. I always felt that I always go above and beyond for people.
And
But
this is what they do to me.
this is what but the another lesson to learn from there is that empathy and people pleasing have a very fine line of difference,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I thought I'm an empathetic person, but if you see, in a way, I merged that line between people pleasing and empathy. Because what is true empathy? You are there for people, you put yourself in their shoes, but you don't have any expectations from them. You do that because you genuinely that person who just wants to be there for the person and you are feeling their pain. It doesn't come with the expectation that the people will stay or they won't, right? But when it turns to people pleasing, you are doing the exact same thing for them, but you have a hidden agenda
Yes.
that you want them to stay. And that's the part that hurts.
That is so beautifully said, because I feel like all my life I've been very empathetic, but I realized that I was also people pleasing.
Yes.
The realizations that you've had, it's amazing. Like, these are your life experiences, which is why Women of Wayland podcast is not solely based on what professional achievement or personal achievement you've done. It's the journey, it's the mix of everything you've gone through.
Yeah. And that's the reason I'm very happy to be here, so that I can at least reach out to some people. Even if this makes impact to one person, I will feel that it's all worth it.
Yeah, I
I
totally
don't
get.
want to let all of this go to waste. Like, I have done so much work on myself. I want to share it out.
And it's easier if there are people who've gone through experiences and they've realized something. This is why we listen to coaches, life coaches,
Exactly.
Mel Robbins and whatnot, just to learn from their experiences.
Yeah. And you only relate to the people who have gone through something rather than just people who are coming up and saying things. And that's the reason I want to say story.
That's another thing that
Yeah.
is happening a lot in this world.
Yeah.
Like, people who come from their personal experiences have a lot to teach.
Yeah.
Um,
And all of these awakenings that I'm talking about, empathy, people, it's not something I read in a book or the therapist told me. It's all something that when I'm looking inwards, I am getting the answers. There are no answers to be seen outside. Everything is inside of you.
you are an observer of your own soul.
Exactly.
Right now. Yeah.
You need to know yourself. The first part is acknowledging you have things that you don't like about yourself. Because most people run away from the things that they don't like. Don't.
What were the repercussions that happened next? What changed in you?
So at that point, instead of rising up from those experiences, I went down.
Let me take you to the point where all of this started affecting you physically.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm very glad you brought that up. So the thing is that we are all afraid of the unknown. That's why we try to control something, because we feel if we have control over something, we can control our life.
Okay.
So I had the fear of not being good enough. What I did was, I remember once going back to my home, surprising my mom from Bangalore. And then instead of being happy, she said, "How much weight have you put on?"
Oh.
Right? And I was in the healthy BMI range, but on the higher side. And I love food. I was a big foodie. Coming back to home, I was like, okay, people pleasing kicked in. Okay, she's not happy to see me or my physique. What can I do? What can I do is hit the gym. I hit the gym. I went and I started exercising. I saw my first pound lost. And that was like a victory. I'm like, okay, it's all paying back. My trainer kept, praising my dedication, 2 hours, 3 hours of working out. And then my mom got happy. And then it just spiraled down into something in my head that, okay, this is something that's making people happy and making them accept me. So that means if I do this, I'll be good enough for people to accept me. Right? I didn't connect the dots at that point, but I just felt that this is something I can control and this is something that makes people happy about me. That's all I knew. So I started working out, kept going on. And, after a point, weight gets plateaued and it gets very hard to lose that last weight. And then I was like, okay, how about diet control? It's maths. You eat and you lose. It's all about how much is going in versus coming out. So I was exercising a lot and then I was restricting my eating. But it just went so far that my BMI went down to 13, which we know that the healthy BMI is 18.5 to 22. I felt that that's the only thing I can control, and it was the only thing that was familiar to me, that I had seen recently for people to accept me. I was having less than 400 or 500 calories a day.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So at that point, when I came to the US and I was going through my physicals, here physical is a thing for every year, which we didn't have in India. And the doctor said, like, she is very unhealthy and I have to be admitted to, because they had to monitor my electrolytes just to make sure if I start eating, because when you're restricting so much and you start eating even like a normal person, you can actually die from electrolyte imbalance. So they wanted me to be in a facility so that they can monitor my intake and make sure I'm not controlling and everything. But the fear was not that I'm going to die of this. The fear was I will lose my control.
I see.
Because that was the only thing that was familiar to me to be accepted.
Which year was this?
2015, I would say. Yeah. So, and then came...
And how many years of marriage?
One or 2 years of marriage. Yeah. And so that's the reason I turned down the inpatient treatment. I was like, I will do it myself because I knew I can control outside of the facility. And then came the baby season, right? All of my friends were having babies. And at that point, I was so unhealthy to a point that I stopped having my periods. Because, So, and I realized, okay, if I want to have a baby, because again, that was the way I could fit in. Because everybody was having babies. So the way for me to fit in was to have a baby.
You always want to fit in,
You
right?
always want, everybody wants to fit in. So coming back to the anorexia phase, I was to a point that I am okay dying with this rather than losing the control. That's how powerful it was. That was the power of, wanting to be accepted. Any kind of these things, hypochondria, everything is the fear of being accepted.
I see.
You just want control over something. My husband used to pack breakfast for me in the morning. I used to just trash it when I used to go to the office. I felt really bad because he was working so hard to, help me gain weight. And my needing for that control was so strong, nothing else mattered. So when I wanted to have a baby, I realized, okay, I have to get into normal BMI so that I can at least conceive. I tried a lot. I tried eating. And to anyone out there, it was like, it's eating. How can it be so hard? The only thing you have to do is put the food in your mouth, and everybody loves food.
Yeah.
And that's the problem of a mental battle. Because they have not lived it, they don't understand it. It's not just taking food and putting in your mouth. It's the control that you have to let go of. And it's not easy to let go of control. And that's how it is, right? Like, stop judging people. Nobody wants to be in that space. For anybody outside, it's very easy to comment on that. But if they are a certain way, there is a story behind it. The only thing is they might not be aware of it. Right? And just have some compassion for the other person.
Yeah, absolutely.
The perfect world is not a world where everybody is healed. The perfect world is a world where everybody is non-judgmental and have compassion for the other person. That's all.
Yeah. So coming back to you trying to conceive.
Yeah. So when I tried to conceive, I tried a lot to eat. I couldn't. I gave up. I'm like, okay, this is not meant for me. I cannot eat. Then I saw my friend having a baby. And when I held that baby, I was like, okay, this is something I really want. Right? I wanted that feeling. And I felt that that's the only thing that will make me feel complete. I tried to eat. It didn't help. Then I So that is the thing in me. Once I set my mind onto it, takes me a lot of time to set my mind onto something. But once I decide, there is no going back from there. So at that point, I was like, I have to get better. I left my job. I joined a lot of anorexia groups. I read any number of books that are out there. I looked at all the documentaries and I was like, okay, the only thing that I can do to get over is to control what I eat. Rather than having the control of not eating, I can just switch the control to what I eat. At least if I know what I'm putting in my body, and if it is all healthy, at least that will relieve some pressure that I'm eating, but I'm eating healthy. Right? So the problem was control. I just had to find that control to go to a healthier place than something that was harming me. So I felt, okay, moving the control to healthy eating is something that I can do. It took me a year and a half to get back to, regular BMI. But once I decided that, I did it. So I was there. I got back to healthier BMI. I got a job back. I had a baby and things went upwards from there, at least. Not mental health wise, but at least I was better health wise. Then in 2024, I was just tired of living the way I am, right? And I thought I am at a point where no amount of therapy can help me. I was beyond repair, if you want to say in like the raw words. But I was like, okay, if I'm beyond repair, what's the harm in giving it a shot? Right? There's no harm in trying. And the problem with therapy is a lot of people quit. Even I decided to quit a lot of times because before it gets easy, it gets very hard. Because when you start therapy, you have to relive everything that you have put in a box and put it out somewhere. And that's the thing that it's like a bomb.
You've buried it.
You have buried it. And if you touch it, you don't know what's going to come out of it. Right? And I that's the part that I hated myself about the most. It was there in that box. So, and you have to admit everything that's inside of you out loud. I have fears. I have insecurities. I'm a possessive person. I do not like myself. I don't like all of these things you have to say out loud, which you don't even say to yourself.
Yeah.
So I went to therapy. My first therapist was nice. But again, the learning point here was every therapist is not a good fit for you.
Oh, it's like trying to find a person to date.
Exactly.
You
That's exactly how would I put it. Yeah.
To see who's the right fit.
Yeah. So coming back to therapy, my first therapist was very nice. She was very kind, compassionate, and she used to feel my pain. But at the same time, she kept circling back into, I'm really sorry what your parents did. I'm really sorry. So it kept me in the loop of being a victim. I was at a point that I know what happened.
Yeah.
I already accept that. I just want to know how to change myself or how to become a better human being from here, right? Because if you are not healed, you even subconsciously or unknowingly hurt the people around you, right? So it's not just about you. It's the people who love you, right? They get hurt because of your unhealed things. And once you bring it up to the light and you accept it, next time in the same situation, you will respond out of the awareness rather than reacting out of impulsiveness, which is a big difference. Right? So that therapist, I left her because and I felt that, okay, I tried therapy, not working out, chapter is over, it's time to move on. But then I was like, let me give it another shot. And then I went online, I found a therapist, and then she changed my life.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that.
She never took me like a victim. Every situation I put in front of her and she pinpointed this is where it's coming from. Because we as humans unknowingly want to fall back into the familiar pattern.
Yeah.
Because that's our comfort, right? Even if it's fear of abandonment, that's our comfort. Our comfort is to stay in unhealthy relationships. So we always fall back into that pattern because we know if people leave, how will it feel? What we don't know, what happens if people truly love us and they stay? That makes us uncomfortable because we don't know. And that's why we keep pushing people away, because that's what we know. But if you really, so it's like you want one thing, but then you can't have that thing because you're pushing it away. It's push and pull that keeps happening. So she helped me understand. When all of these things came up, I started talking about my 5-year-old. She was the one who brought it up, and I went into really bad anxiety and depression. It was to the point I felt I can never come out of it.
Was this postpartum?
It was 2024, right? So 5 years.
5 years.
Fine. I had postpartum depression too. I just didn't know at that point because COVID and everything hit. So I was like, okay, it's just the messy
Same time.
situation rather
Yeah.
than the postpartum hitting me. So yeah, coming back to my therapy point, she's when I started realizing that all of that anger for my parents kept coming out. And I am a person who never likes to go back to her home, to India. And I always felt guilty that, I've seen people staying months with their parents when they are here and missing them. And I never do that. I felt like a bad daughter. Like, why don't I want to go back? And after therapy, I realized that it's okay to not want to go back because that was never a safe space for me, anyways.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It was all filled with that fears and violence and everything. So it's natural to not want to go back.
Right.
And when I knew this, that all guilt and everything just lifted off of me and accepted myself. It's okay. Some people want to. It's okay. Some people don't want to. So I went into this spiral that I can never come out of. I went into a huge depression, reliving all those memories. It was to a point that I was just lying down on the couch and I kept crying. And my husband said, if I leave you in the morning and come back in the evening, I will find you in the exact same spot. Not doing anything. It takes a toll on you, and things were not going. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a job at that point.
And that's even tough, when you
that's
don't
even
have,
tough, yeah.
In the West, it's if you don't have family around.
Yeah. So then I reached out to a friend, right? And that's the other thing. You don't need thousands of friends in your life like I thought I did. You only need that 1 or 2 people in your life who are not judgmental. They might not have to accept everything that you say, but they should be willing to understand it.
Totally.
They have to give you that safe space
Beautifully said.
for
Yes.
you to be yourself. If
Yeah.
you even have one person like that, you are blessed.
Yeah, totally. I want to take you back to that important event in your life where you decided to get married and went into an alliance with someone. Tell me about it.
So like I told you, I dated somebody in college and it wasn't a very good relationship, and how it ended, that left me feeling so negatively about myself and question my choices even more. That I am a big romantic person, right? I believe in love marriages and all the fantasies and all the Bollywood movies that creates out there.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a life like that. That's just movies. I still do believe in them. But after that experience of mine, I felt like I cannot trust myself with this. And I wanted to get out of my house, right? And I feel the marriage of my parents was, in a way, that even slightly better than that was like
Your benchmark.
was my benchmark. But coming back to that point, I just wanted to get out of my house. I kept getting some proposals, but I met my now husband, right? His family was very nice and they were all very connected and all respecting each other, and his parents are amazing.
Yeah.
If somebody is even talking respectfully to each other, that was like
A lot.
a lot for me.
Hmm.
And I connected with my husband. We had a phone call and I was very scared of being lonely. I think maybe that was the reason I said yes to any marriage, because I didn't want to be lonely and I wanted to get out of my house. But luckily, I found my husband. He has supported me in every step
Everything.
of the way. He understands where I came from, one by one secrets and the dark corners of my house, and
Yeah.
letting him all into what happened. But yeah, as far as that goes, that is my.
I know that when you were sharing your story in the pre-interview,
Yeah.
you were not hesitant. You were this confident, glowy self that you are right now in front of me. And I have not recorded an anonymous story in the studio before. So this is my first. Thank you for giving me that
Of
chance.
course.
But at the same time, I was amazed at how beautifully you shared your story without ever feeling emotionally down during the story. And that strength, where are you getting it from? Because
From
as a listener, I couldn't, be okay listening to it.
Thank you for that. It really means a lot because I wanted to be that person who comes out with a lot of strength. So I always have lived in a victim mindset. Once you take accountability for your life and your actions, things change. Once you bring all the things and you realize it's all the conditioning and it's in my hands to change that, and you accept yourself fully, things change no matter what anybody else says. You know yourself. Let them say whatever they want to. They want to leave, let them go.
Yeah.
The hardest part is to let somebody go who you really love. But
So glad you said that.
ultimately, if they want to leave, no matter what you do, they're not going to stay.
Yeah, you take the reins of your life in your hand.
Yeah. And I don't have to feel bad about myself. If I can survive all of that I can survive anything that life has to throw at me. And there are only two ways. Either I can look back and keep questioning, why did this happen to me? And always stay in the victim mindset, or take the positives out of it. This happened to me because of which I am this strong and I have all the lessons to learn and I to become a better person. What is life? It's all the lessons that you have to learn.
Yeah.
Either you can criticize or you can learn from it. That is the word karma, right?
Yeah.
Karma is not punishment. It is just a series of lessons that you have to learn to become your highest version of yourself.
Coming to Wayland.
Yes.
What got you to Wayland?
Schooling in Wayland is amazing.
Mm.
And we wanted our daughter to be in a good school district where you have a lot of kids to play around. And the location is amazing.
Yes,
Right?
it is.
And the place where I live, it's full of kids. It's like full of life. Like when we saw this house, we didn't even enter the house. We just fell in love with the neighborhood.
Neighborhood.
And
yeah.
just seeing at all the trees and highways close by,
Everything was
everything, Framingham, Natick, Sudbury, everything was close by, right?
Mm.
And before we even decided on the house, we decided on the location.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And yeah,
Did you make friends here?
I am starting to. So if
Good.
anybody is looking out to have a new friend, please reach out to Yamini and she can connect you to me.
Yes. And I can see in your eyes and in the way you tell your story how confident, how joyous you are, even in speaking about some of the most difficult things that you had to speak today. That is inspiring. This was fantastic. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Just last thing, thank you all for listening to me and my story. I would request you, try not to be so sorry for me or see me like a victim, because I don't. I'm very glad it all happened and I'm here because otherwise I would not have been here. So thank you so much for connecting with me.
Thank you.
And
Beautifully said, and I'm sure they will not. They will see it as a triumphant story.
thank you, Yamini. Thank you for having me here.
Some stories stay with us long after they are told. This is one of them. What you've just heard is more than a story. It's a life lived, a past carried, and a future being rewritten. If you found pieces of yourself in these words, if this journey resonated with you, know that you're not alone. Healing takes time. But every conversation, every moment of recognition is a step forward. So if you would like to send a message, a word of support, or even connect with our anonymous guest, you can reach out through me. Because sometimes the simplest act of being seen can make all the difference. If you've been moved by this episode, I urge you to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Leave a review, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and help us keep creating a space for stories that deserve to be told. And to businesses and brands who believe in the power of storytelling, this is an invitation. Partner with us, sponsor an episode, help us continue bringing raw, unfiltered human experience to light. If you would like to support Season 5, the design of which is based on women in local governance, reach out for sponsorship opportunities. Thank you for listening. Until next time, may we all keep finding the strength to tell our own stories. This is Yamini, your host, and you were listening to Women of Wayland, the podcast.